Design is all around us. In any given day, you interact with hundreds of designs. As a consumer, it's easy to overlook all of the work and thought processes that go into creating a finished product. But if you've ever had to write, say, an essay or a speech for school, or perhaps create an original piece of artwork or film a video, it doesn't take long before you start to realize that there is a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into creating this short, finished product that we see. Designers are people who solve problems. They first start off by learning about the world around them, the way things work. Then an idea arises. They see a problem, a need. They use creativity to find out how that need can be fixed. And they do that through the use of information. They formulate a blueprint, design. Coming up with original ideas requires a lot of work. Thankfully, we do not need to start from scratch. Some of the best designs in the world are right at our fingertips, here in our backyard. I'm Jasmine, and this is my brief but spectacular take on the beauty of nature. One amazing example was first discovered by a group of biologists who were conducting research on trees. They took a large pot of soil and planted in it a small seed from a tree. They watered the seed until it grew and grew and matured. Once it was full size, they drained the water from the tree and weighed it. The tree, without any water, still weighed several hundred pounds. Then they decided to weigh the soil. And that's when they were very surprised, as they found that the weight of the soil had hardly changed at all. If the tree wasn't made of the water, and it hadn't gotten its weight from the soil, then what was it made of? It wasn't until they looked under a microscope that they discovered something shocking. Inside the tree were these tiny machines that were able to take particles of carbon and hydrogen and rearrange them on a molecular level to create the bark, the leaves, the fruit, the veins. The entire tree was made of air. Now, this was not just in one tree. They discovered that these machines exist in every plant and even the rare species of animals that use photosynthesis. Another example are these tiny creatures called diatoms. They make up 50% of all marine life, and they are made of pure glass. They are able to take the water and turn it into these intricate glass shapes, and inside of them, they grow smaller versions of themselves, and the lid of them opens up like a jewelry case and lets all the smaller diatoms off into the water. Machines that can turn water into glass, air into food. This gets designers really excited. All over nature, we see these amazing designs that work incredibly well. There's an entire field of study in engineering called biomimicry, where designers look at the way nature works and model their designs after it. These are just a few examples of ways that we have taken our inspiration from nature. Now, as humans, when we try to make something, we run into this huge problem, that it is by the very laws of nature that all things are breaking down. All energy and matter are spreading out. Our cars are rusting, our houses, they fall apart. Everything we order into a specific plan returns to the laws of nature and breaks apart. But when we study how living things work, we discover something incredible. They fight back. Each of the trillions of cells in your body can only last up to 20 hours. That means that day and night, while your cells are performing their own function, they're like a car. Imagine you got into that car and drove to your vacation in Disneyland. But while you were driving, that car picks up pieces off the road here and there and builds an entirely new car, so that by the time you get to Disneyland and that car is broken down, it has built itself an entire new car for you to drive back in. Now these cells also work together to perform higher functions within your body. Your body requires a state of homeostasis, meaning stabilization, in order for it to live. For example, the blood pressure in your brain cannot change. If it goes any lower, you'll black out, and if it goes any higher, you'll have a stroke. In theory, when you tip upside down, the blood rushing to your brain should kill you, but your cells are able to anticipate what is coming and send signals at 1/10 of a second to keep you alive. In science class, we are taught the theory that life is created by the laws of nature. But through scientific discovery, we know that life can only exist when it is fighting back against the laws of nature. How could the laws of nature be responsible for creating life? One example of this is through a plant called a bladderwort. Despite the rather underwhelming name, this plant is far from boring. The bladderwort is carnivorous and grows underwater. Through the use of complex valve and locking mechanisms, the bladderwort is able to create an air pocket under the water that is not crushed by the weight of the water around it. The plant has a small valve at the front of it that is surrounded by rows of tripwires. If any of these sensors are set off by a fish, the bladderwort opens its mouth at 1/20th of a second, faster than the fastest camera shutter speed, and sucks in all the water around it, capturing the fish. Through this creature, we see problems being solved, the way that it fits perfectly within its ecosystem. We see innovative and unique mechanisms, and a real legible blueprint exists within the DNA of each of its cells. The beauty of nature is in its design. Every part of nature, from the intercellular systems to large ecosystems of coordination, is specific, necessary, and complex far beyond any human design. Within each strand of DNA, in the trillions of cells in the human body, there is enough real information to fill all the books in a grand library. There are more working systems of living machines in your entire body than there are stars in the entire universe. Every atom that makes up you is accounted for in your DNA. And you don't have to have a PhD or a college degree to be simply amazed at this living earth. See, the beauty of nature is in the design of nature. And if you find yourself awestruck at the beauty, you can't help but wonder if there is a designer. I'm Jasmine, and this is my brief but spectacular take on the beauty of nature.